So I haven't actually done a review discussion of a game for quite some time. I spent the last week on vacation just taking a break from work, taking a break from uploading things because I know, Pwnecast has been on hold and things like that, but I decided to rent the Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 Square Enix Mega Ultra Awesome HD Collection, whatever they call it now. It's like Remix, 1.5 HD Remix, or something like that. Really long, unnecessary title. I decided to rent that from GameFly, considering that most of the newer games I've been playing have been rentals because of the new consoles coming up, saving up for that. And included in this collection, you have Kingdom Hearts 1 Final Mix HD. You have Chain of Memories with the PS2 version. I think that's a final mix. You have that included in HD. And then you have a 2-hour and 50-minute... I wouldn't necessarily call it a movie. I would call it a collection of cutscenes from the Nintendo DS title 358 divided by 2 days. I don't know exactly how you're supposed to pronounce that title, but it looks like a math equation in the middle of the title. Anyway, I like Kingdom Hearts. I think for the most part, other than some of the mobile stuff that you get with like the DS, or I haven't played Birth by Sleep on the PSP or Game Boy Advance with Chain of Memories. The main installments in the franchise 1 and 2 are really good games. It's a set of games from Square Enix from the 2000s that I find to be the most consistent and the most enjoyable. In a time where I thought that Final Fantasy games were starting to get really, really bad, with 10. I didn't really bother with 11 because it was online only, and 12 being an okay game. I felt that Kingdom Hearts was a better alternative than to playing those Final Fantasy titles. Kingdom Hearts 1 in HD, from what I understand, is that they lost a lot of the assets used to make the game, so they had to go back and pretty much just remake the game from scratch, save for sound. And, well, actually, I take that back. The voice acting is the same, at least from what I can recall. I don't think any of the voice actors have changed. Sora's voice still sounds very young. It still sounds like the original voice actor from the first game, because if you notice from the first and second game, the child that they had playing Sora had gone through puberty, and his voice had dropped significantly. So the voice is still the same, but the music has been completely redone. It's more live orchestrations now, which is really cool. I really like these new versions of the music better than the original. The game itself is a lot more bright, a lot more colorful, and I'm not sure if that's just because of how I remember the game, or if they intentionally went back and made it like this for the PS3 version. As for any bonus things, I'm not exactly sure what is different from Final Mix compared to the original that I had played back in, almost 10 years ago. I couldn't even tell you what the differences are, but everything that I remember from Kingdom Hearts 1 was in this game. I distinctly remember the game being a little bit more difficult, and I'm not necessarily sure if that's because Final Mix was easier or something like that. I just remember there being a lot more grinding in this game in order to beat the final boss, which only took 2 attempts for me, mostly because I couldn't remember what you were supposed to do to fight the final boss. So Kingdom Hearts 1 is definitely one of the better Square Enix games from the 2000s. I don't really know I can't really review that game because it's already been reviewed before. It's a critically acclaimed game. The only thing I can comment on is how good the transfer is. This is one of the best HD transfers that I've seen in a game, and I think that's mostly taken from the fact that they lost all those assets and they had to remake it. Which I understand how developers how they do HD collections, how really they just make them in 16:9, upscale it so that way it doesn't look weird on your TV or whatever you're playing your console on, so that way it's a proper aspect ratio. And there's some slight texture upgrades and things like that, but there are some really bad HD collections out there. For example, the Devil May Cry HD collection, if you look at any of those cutscenes, they are some of the worst things I've ever seen. Capcom is really notorious for having some bad HD collections. Zone of the Enders, before the patch, was Zone of the Enders, the second runner, was pretty hard to play due to the big frame rate drops. But that's been fixed now, and it's all good. Silent Hill HD Collection on the Xbox 360 never received that patch that the PS3 did, which makes the games playable and makes them enjoyable. So Kingdom Hearts definitely is a step above some of the Capcom stuff like that. I would probably put it up there with the Metal Gear Solid HD collections in terms of quality. As for the remainder of the games in this collection, or I should say one game and one batch of cutscenes, I do not like Chain of Memories. I've never enjoyed it. I understand if there's a whole bunch of people out there that enjoy it. I know that it's an integral part of the universe, and it leads into Kingdom Hearts 2, but I cannot play that game for the life of me due to its very, very stupid combat system. The whole card thing where you have to use cards in order to attack and summon allies and things like that, I think it's dumb. I think when they transferred it over to the PlayStation 2, it should have been, okay, we're just going to redo the combat system from 1, or better yet, even do a prototype version of the combat system from 2, and put that in the game and have you play the game. I think that would have been so much better. But I booted it up for at least half an hour and played through it, and it still looks with the same quality as the HD version of 1. So if you're a fan of Chain of Memories, you're going to be pleased with the port for that. Personally, it's not a game for me. I've never really enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it on the Game Boy Advance, and I don't enjoy it now. Now, with 358 divided by 2, I think this is where the collection starts to fall short. I understand that it's a Nintendo DS game, and you're trying to somehow represent that within the collection. I've never played this game, so when it comes to the cutscenes in it, I can understand how you would try to make it so that way I can understand the story of what's going on, which, from what I gather, because this is a really, really bad setup for trying to tell a story, the first problem is, if you're just going to play a whole bunch of cutscenes and I'm supposed to sit here and watch it, try to condense some of the... you gotta cut some of the fat out. 358 is 3 hours, and the joke that was going on with myself and my brother, who's also a big Kingdom Hearts fan when we were sitting down and watching this, is the majority of these batch of cutscenes are the character Roxas, Axel, and the female character introduced in 358, which she's so unmemorable I can't even remember what her name is. They sit around on top of a clock tower and eat ice cream for at least the first hour. And that's how the story is told to you. It's really dull. And I even noticed in some sequences the female character, it was really funny that her hood would, in some shots, be up, and in the next shot it would be down and then back up again, and even in one scene it was going up and down, up and down, up and down in between frames. It was one of the funniest things that I've seen when it came to, I guess that's a glitch within the collection. It was a pretty funny sequence. But largely with 358, I was completely disinterested. I think that when it comes to, because inevitably there's going to be a second collection that includes Kingdom Hearts 2, probably Birth by Sleep, and Dream Drop Distance. I think that if they're going to do something similar to this in the second collection, they should at least condense it down to what I need to know, instead of just, okay, we're just going to pull out all the cutscenes from the DS cart and we're going to play them. And you get some text in between some of them, which kind of tells you what they do in certain parts of the game, but it's really poorly made, and the only purpose I could see somebody actually doing this is to get introduced to the character of Roxas for Kingdom Hearts 2, which you don't really need. You can just play Kingdom Hearts 2 and be perfectly fine. Or if you just want some really easy trophies because it's an easy 1%, just hit the play button and go do something else for 3 hours. And then when you come back, you can look at all the extended files, and you can just easily scroll through them with R1, and then you get every single trophy for 358. Easy 100%. So overall, this collection is really good. I enjoyed playing Kingdom Hearts 1. Do I think it's worth $40? Personally, no. I don't believe so. I think that because of the inclusion of Chain of Memories, because personally I don't like it, I probably would have paid $20 just to play Kingdom Hearts 1. As for $358, I could care less. So $40, I didn't spend $40 on it, mind you, so I'm kind of glad that I did rent it. However, it did take up a lot of time because Kingdom Hearts 1's at least a 20-25 hour long game. You've got the 3 hours with $358, and then Chain of Memories, I can't even tell you how long that is. I think on How Long to Beat, it said to beat the final mix of Chain of Memories, it was about 15 hours. So there's a decent amount of length in this collection for those, and going through and 100%ing it with all the trophies can be very challenging. Kingdom Hearts 1 has a really nice challenge where you start the game with your standard equipment, your Keyblade, and nothing else, and the trophy is to play through the whole game without ever changing your equipment, which means no changing of Keyblades, anything like that. So you're using the Kingdom Key straight through the game, and I think I got to Hollow Bastion before I said screw it and I decided to equip a tougher Keyblade. So I was pretty close to the end of the game before I gave in to that. There's also achievements for synthesizing a whole bunch of items and weapons, getting every single Keyblade in the game, going through the Colosseum, which has always been fun. So there's plenty to do in these collections, and it should hold you over for at least 3-4 weeks if you're trying to 100% these games. So I really enjoyed the collection other than Chain of Memories and 358. I really like the first game, so that's kind of the redeeming factor when it comes to this collection. Do I recommend picking it up? I do, but not for $40, as I said before. So if you can find it cheaper than that, definitely give it a go. If you're a big Kingdom Hearts fan, you probably already have your hands on it, so me discussing this game is kind of moot. So I enjoyed the first game, and let me know what your thoughts are about the Kingdom Hearts HD collection below if you've played it. If you have any other questions about the collection as to, like, if you're wary, maybe you've had a bad experience with HD collections before, such as the Silent Hill or Splinter Cell HD collection, you're kind of worried about the quality of this, trust me, it's really good quality, definitely one of the best HD collections out there, definitely up there with the Metal Gear collection. So definitely check this out if you're a Square Enix fan or a Kingdom Hearts fan. I recommend going out and at least renting it to play the first game. So other than that, I should have some things coming up in the future, trying to get my hands on GTA 5 and a copy of Killzone Mercenary to look at. And then we have Beyond Two Souls coming out very soon, which I'm definitely interested in. When it came to Quantic Dream, I wasn't really a big of a fan of Heavy Rain, but Beyond Two Souls looks a lot more interesting than Heavy Rain. So I guess until I get my hands on one of those games, I'll see you guys later. There should be some commentaries coming up pretty soon with the Battlefield 4 beta, and I'm going to try out a new format with news. Pwnecast is still going to stay here, but there are some things that we don't talk about on Pwnecast that I personally would love to discuss. And so I feel doing commentary over gameplay footage with said news or anything like that would be a nice format to go to. So look forward to some of that pretty soon, because I definitely want to talk about Valve's announcements that happened this week, whether it be on Pwnecast or in one of these commentaries. So stay tuned. Phantasm Mask here, signing out.